You were told discipline means killing your desires. It doesn't. The men who tried hardest to kill desire ended up ruled by it more completely than anyone. Because a hunger you refuse to look at is a hunger that gives the orders. Look closely at the monk who prides himself on wanting nothing, and you will often find a man consumed by the wanting of that very reputation. The hunger to be seen as the one above hunger. He did not defeat the appetite. He drove it underground, where it kept its grip and only lost its name. And here is why that should stop you cold. Because you are not a man trying to feel nothing. You are a man building something. You want the work to matter. You want to win. You want to look at what you made and know it was real. That wanting is not your weakness. It is your engine. So the advice to simply kill desire is not just wrong for you, it is suicidal to everything you are trying to become. Your ambition is a desire. To murder desire is to murder the exact drive that gets you up before the world is awake. So understand the real enemy, because you have been aiming at the wrong one your whole life. The enemy was never desire. The enemy is desire you never examined. The appetite operating in the dark, steering a life you believe you are choosing. That is the real fight. It is quieter and harder than the one you were sold, and almost no one wins it, because almost no one even knows it is being fought. The goal is not to become empty. It is to become the man who decides. Stay with me, because I am going to show you exactly how that man is built. Set the false goal down. You are not here to empty yourself out. The absence of desire is not strength. It is the condition of a man who has stopped reaching, and you did not come this far to stop reaching. What you are after is not silence. It is authority. Not a life with no hunger in it, but a life where you are the one who says where the hunger goes. Because there is a drive that builds, and there is a drive that consumes, and this is the trap. They wear the exact same face. The same fire that makes a man train when no one is watching can become the fire that needs to be watched. The same hunger that makes you refuse mediocrity can curdle into a hunger that can never be fed. One more rep, one more deal, one more proof, and still the floor keeps moving under you. Desire itself is not the tell. What it does to you is the tell. So ask it every time. Does it leave you more yourself or less? More free or more owned? Hold on to that question. Is the blade we are going to use on everything that follows. And I am speaking to you directly in the second person on purpose. Because this is about you specifically. The man who wants things and fully intends to get them. You will not be asked to want less. You will be asked to want deliberately. To take the appetites that already live in you and stop letting them run the house while you sleep. Because here is the thing no one tells the ambitious man. The market does not need to break you. A competitor does not need to outwork you. A bad mood does not need to defeat you. They only need to find the one desire you have not mastered and pull it. Every unexamined want is a handle on your back that someone else can reach. Mastery is turning those handles into levers only your own hand can move. Not colder, not emptier, sovereign. Here is the distinction that runs underneath all of it, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every desire in you either serves the thing you are building, or it feeds on it. There is no neutral appetite. A want is either fuel poured into the work, or it is fire turned back on the man doing the work. And from the inside, in the moment, the two feel exactly alike. Watch how easily one becomes the other. Hunger that gets you to the gym at 5 in the morning is a clean thing. It wants the standard, the strength, the quiet fact of having done it. But let that same hunger drift a few degrees, and now it needs the mirror. It needs the complement. It needs the number to be higher than his. The action looks identical from the outside. Same alarm, same weights, same sweat. But the man performing it has been quietly captured. He no longer trains to build himself. He trains to be seen as built. The first hunger serves what he is making. The second one eats it, and eats him along with it, because it can never, ever be filled. Stoics saw this mechanism clearly 2,000 years ago. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Read that again, not as a proverb, but as an operating principle. Poverty is not a number in an account. Poverty is the state of craving beyond any floor. A man can have built an empire and still live there, in that endless wanting, because the wanting was never really about the thing. It was about the next thing. A craving that has no floor is a master with no mercy. It will take everything you build and call it not enough. Understand this plainly. A hunger you cannot satisfy is not yours. You are its. This idea did not begin with self-help, and it is worth going back to the source, because the source is harder and cleaner than the version that reaches you now. The Stoics never preached emptiness. They were not trying to manufacture men who felt nothing. What they feared? The thing they built an entire philosophy against was enslavement to appetite. The idea that a man could walk free in the street and still be a slave inside his own chest. Epictetus put it with a force the copies always lose. He built his whole account of freedom around one thing: the correct handling of desire and aversion. What you reach for and what you flee. In the discourses, he defines the free man plainly. He is free, he says, who lives as he wishes to live, who is neither subject to compulsion, nor to hindrance, nor to force, whose movements to action are not impeded, whose desires attain their purpose, and who does not fall into that which he would avoid. And then the blade underneath it. The man who craves what belongs to another has already handed that other man the key. And this mattered from his mouth in particular, because Epictetus had been a slave, literally owned in the ordinary meaning of the word, before he was ever free. When he talks about bondage, the metaphor has teeth the rest of us have to borrow. He knew the difference between a chain on the leg and a chain on the will, and he taught that the second one was worse, because you carry it into every room and call it yourself. Now, one word of honesty, because this channel deals only in the real thing. You have seen the line, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," stamped over a photo of Marcus Aurelius. He never wrote it. It is a modern fabrication, a clean-sounding forgery, and we will not build a single thing on a fake. The genuine teaching is quieter and asks far more of you. It is not a slogan you post. It is a command you obey when no one is looking. So if you are the kind of man who would rather be governed by an aim you chose than by an urge that happened to pass through you, then this channel is being built for you. No hype. No hand on your shoulder. Just a place where the old, hard ideas get told straight, for men who are actually building something. Subscribe and keep building alongside it. That is all. Now, back to the work, because we have only laid the ground. Next comes the failure almost every man walks straight into. Here is the failure most men choose without ever knowing they chose it. The man who denies his desires does not master them. He loses sight of them, and that is the whole trap in a single line. What you cannot see, you cannot steer. The appetite you refuse to admit is precisely the one running the controls, exactly because you have agreed never to look at the controls. Seneca named this, and the phrase should stay with you. No servitude, he wrote, is more disgraceful than that which is self-imposed. Sit with the word disgraceful. Not tragic, not unlucky. Disgraceful, because no one did this to you. You built the cage. You turned the key. Then you handed yourself the story that you are free. The addict tells himself he could stop any time. The workaholic tells himself he is choosing the desk. The status chaser tells himself the next rung is the last one. Each of them is obeying a desire he never once named, inside a life he is certain he designed. This is the cost of refusing to look, and it is so high precisely because it hides. The desire never announces itself as a ruler. It arrives dressed as a preference, as a reasonable next step, as just how you are. And every single time you decline to examine it, you deepen the servitude. You weave it tighter into your own hand until it is impossible to tell from your own will. The man who says, "I just want to win," and never asks what winning would prove, or to whom, is not free of that hunger. He has simply agreed to be driven by it in the dark. So hear this clearly. The refusal to look is not neutrality. It is surrender with the lights off, and the way out begins the moment you turn the lights back on. So the first move is not restraint. It is sight. Before you can master a desire, you have to drag it into daylight and name it, precisely. And precisely is the whole game, because a vague desire is an unopposable one. I want success cannot be examined. It is too large and too flattering to hold in your hand. So push on it. What, exactly, are you reaching for? Keep pushing past the first answer, because the first answer is always the respectable one. Not, I want to be successful, but say the real one out loud. I want to be seen as the man who never needed anyone. There. Now you are looking at something you can actually deal with. This is an interrogation, and you are both the one asking and the one who has been hiding the truth. Two questions do most of the work. First, what am I actually reaching for? Not the noble version, the true one. Second, what does it promise me? Because every ruling desire is secretly a promise. The applause promises you are enough. The money promises you are safe. The win over him promises you are not what you were afraid you were. Name the promise, and you finally see the wound the desire has been medicating all along. And here is why naming has such force. A desire in the dark disguises itself as a need. It says, "This is not a want, this is survival. You have to have this." Naming strips the disguise clean off. Said plainly and in full, I want the applause because I am afraid I am nothing without it. The tyrant shrinks back into what it always was, a want, one want among many. A thing you are allowed to feel and not obligated to obey. You cannot command what you will not name, so name it. Out loud, if that is what it takes. The naming is the first act of ownership, and every act of mastery after it depends on this one. Naming shows you the desire. The second move sets its limits, and you set them now, while you are calm, before the wanting is in the room to argue with you. Because mastery, again, is not suppression. It is definition. It is saying the word enough in advance, out loud, with a number attached, so that the hungry version of you does not get to invent the terms in the exact moment he is least fit to. The Stoics understood this with a precision worth stealing. Seneca drew the line between two kinds of appetite. Natural desires are limited, he wrote, but those which spring from false opinion can have no stopping point. A natural desire has a floor and a ceiling built into it. You are hungry, you eat, you are full, it ends. But the desire manufactured by comparison, by opinion, by more than him, that one has no ceiling anywhere inside it. It is, in his own image, a road with no end. A man on a road with no end can walk his entire life and never once arrive. So you build the ceiling yourself, deliberately, in advance. Not as a mood, as a number. How much sleep is enough? Decided before the ambition tells you sleep is for the weak. How much money is enough for this stage of the build? An actual figure, written down while you are clear-eyed, so the moving target cannot keep moving on you. How much proof is enough before you finally let yourself believe the thing is real? Draw these lines while calm, and the hungry man inside you inherits a decision instead of getting to make one in the heat. That is the entire difference. A desire with a ceiling serves you. It does its work, reports back, and stops. Desire with no ceiling owns you, and it will spend your whole life hunting for a floor it was designed never to find. The third move is the one that separates this from every hollow sermon about restraint you have ever sat through. Do not extinguish a strong appetite. You aim it. The intensity that could wreck your life is not a different substance from the intensity that builds it. It is the same fuel, and the only question that matters is where the barrel is pointed. Mastery is metabolism, not amputation. You are not cutting the drive out. You are digesting it into something that feeds the work. Look at what this makes possible. Craving for approval, the one that could have you performing your whole life for an audience that will never once be satisfied. Take it and point it at the work itself. Let it become the flat refusal to ship anything you would be ashamed to put your name on. Same hunger, aimed inward at the standard instead of outward at the crowd. And now it builds you instead of bleeding you. Craving for comfort, the one that could soften you into a man who never does the hard thing. Pointed at rest that actually restores. The deep sleep, the real recovery that lets you hit tomorrow harder, instead of the numbing that only steals tomorrow. You did not kill the want. You gave it a direction that serves the aim you chose. This is why the murderer's approach fails, and the master's approach compounds. Cut the drive out, and you are simply a weaker man. Less fuel, less fire, less of the thing that made you dangerous to mediocrity in the first place. But redirect it, and every appetite becomes horsepower. The man who has learned to aim his hungers is not a tamed man. He is a loaded one. All that intensity still fully present, still fully his. But now every barrel is pointed at the thing he is building instead of at his own feet. Keep the fire. You just decide, finally, what it burns. Now the turn, from tactics to the man himself. Because every time you choose the desire that builds over the desire that consumes, something larger than that single choice is happening. You are not merely resisting an urge. You are becoming a specific kind of man. The choice is not just an action you take. It is a person you are casting, vote by vote, until the votes harden into a character. And this is why it has to be hard. A man who has never been tested by his own wanting cannot be trusted with power. Because no one knows, least of all him, what he would do when the wanting got loud. But the man who has stood inside a real hunger and chosen the aim anyway has proven something that cannot be faked. He has shown he can be handed force and not be run by it. That is the only credential that actually means anything. Not that you never wanted the wrong thing, that you wanted it, felt the full pull of it, and stayed the one deciding. Viktor Frankl found the ground of this in the worst place a man can be tested. He survived the camps, watched everything strippable be stripped from human beings, and concluded that one thing could not be taken. The last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Everything else can be seized. That cannot, unless you surrender it yourself. And notice exactly where that freedom lives. Not before the desire. The desire will come, uninvited, at full strength, whether you approve of it or not. It lives in the space between the wanting and the grab. Something in you wants, and then, for one moment, there is a gap, and then you move. That gap is small, and most men never once notice it exists. But your entire character lives inside it. Mastery is not feeling less. It is widening that gap, until there is room enough in it for a man to stand up and decide. Now guard this against the distortion it always attracts, because it will attract it. Somewhere along the way, master your desires gets twisted into want nothing and need no one, and men mistake that coldness for the summit. Is not the summit. A man who has amputated his wanting and walled off every attachment has not achieved mastery. He has just built a smaller cage and moved into it, and painted the word freedom on the walls. Needing no one is not strength. It is a fear of being owned that grew so large it swallowed the man whole. So understand what self-mastery is actually for. The point of not being dragged by your appetites was never to have no one left to walk beside. It was the opposite. The man who is at the mercy of his hungers cannot truly love anyone, because he is always half gone, pulled toward the next hit, the next win, the next proof, never fully in the room, because some appetite is always calling him out of it. The man who has authority over his wanting can actually stay. He can give without secretly counting what it returns. He can love without needing the other person to fix something in him, because he has already faced the thing that needed fixing, named it, and set its limits himself. That is the correction, and it matters for the man building something more than for anyone. Because building is lonely enough without mistaking the loneliness for the goal. Self-mastery serves connection. Does not replace it. The whole point of governing yourself is to become a man who can be relied on. By the people who build with you, by the ones who depend on you, by the person who wakes up next to the life you made. A man who needs nothing is not free. He is just unreachable. The free man is the one who can want deeply, love fully, stay completely, and still be the one holding the reins. So come back to where this began, and let the flip finish itself. You were told discipline meant killing your desires. But you were never once asked to become a man who wants nothing. You were asked to become the man who governs what he wants. Not desireless. Sovereign. Those are not the same country, and only one of them is worth ruling. The desires do not vanish when you do this. That was always the lie buried in the ascetic's promise. Hunger stays. The ambition stays. The pull toward comfort and applause and more, all of it stays, because it was never the problem. What changes is the order of things. Where there was a mob of appetites, each one grabbing for the wheel, there is now a line. Every desire still present, still full of its old force, but fallen in behind an aim that you chose in the daylight, with your own hand. They do not stop wanting, they stop commanding. They become what they were meant to be all along, not your rulers, and not your prisoners either. Your men, that is the image to carry out of here, not a cold man who feels nothing. A man who governs the country of himself, every hunger a citizen, every appetite a subject, all of it answerable to one will that he alone appointed. And there is a kind of quiet that comes to a man like that. It is not the quiet of emptiness. It is the quiet of a house in order, of a ruler who no longer fears his own people, because he has finally learned to lead them. Master your desires and they line up behind you. Refuse to, and one of them is already giving the orders in your name. This is the only mastery that lasts, not over the market, not over other men, not over the verdict of a crowd you were never going to control. Over the one country that was ever truly yours to rule. The throne has been empty long enough. Take it.